Good evening, everyone. My name is Stan Chambers Jr. I am the Polaris of the Alpha Epsilon Omega alumni chapter of Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated. And we like to welcome you to our discussion tonight, which is about the Haitian experience in America. And so, as you guys have seen the news in recent weeks, about waves of Haitian immigrants making their way through Central America to the Mexico border and trying to cross into the United States. And so the narrative in the news doesn't really tell the whole story about, because when you look at the news, especially recently, you see Haitian immigrants at the border, and you hear sort of all the recent unrest and natural disasters and this, that, and the third that has been going on in Haiti for the past few years. And so, but that just tells a small part of the story. And so we felt that given what's been happening in the news, we felt this would be a great opportunity to sort of set the record straight regarding the Haitian experience in America. And so one may ask, well, why is Iota Phi Theta doing this? Why are the Triangle Iotas doing this? Well, our fraternity not only has multiple members who are of Haitian descent, as well as sweethearts who are of Haitian descent. We have members of our own chapter who are of Haitian descent, those who were born in Haiti and came to the United States, and those who were born in the United States. And so we thought it was very important to amplify those voices given what has taken place in the news, what everyone has seen in the news in recent weeks. And so thank you guys for attending. Some housekeeping notes. If you guys say hello in the chat, if you have any questions, ask them in the chat and I'll forward them to our presenters. And don't hesitate to engage in the chat. Don't hesitate to share this on your personal pages. And on that note, we're gonna get this going. So I'm going to turn this over to our Vice Polaris, Jermaine Goods, and let's get this conversation started.
All right, good evening. My name is Jermaine Goods. I am the Vice Polaris of the Alpha Epsilon Omega chapter, Spring 16 initiative of Theta Phi chapter. And I would like my guest panel to give their brief introductions, please. Start with Ms. Joanne.
Hello, my name is Joanne Murad. I am Spring 09 for Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. I am the second vice president for the Theta Lambda Sigma alumni chapter in Cary, North Carolina. And I'm first generation Haitian American.
Vlad.
Bonsoir. No, my name is Vladimir Murad. I'm not sure what to say about myself, but born in Haiti, by ways of New York, by ways of Buffalo, New York, and by ways of North Carolina. I am also a member of a great organization of Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated. I'm also a grad member of AEO.
All right, ça passe. I'm brother Sam Carmont. Born in Haiti, been Haitian American, came here with my mother when I was 4 years old. I crossed the wild and rapacious Alpha Eta chapter, Southern University, Baton Rouge, and currently moved to Orlando recently. So proud to connect with the Gamma Epsilon Omega brothers here pretty soon. But yeah, that's me.
All right, I appreciate everybody for giving the introductions. Without further ado, we're going to jump right into it. So the first question I want to start off with is, when you tell someone that you're Haitian, what is that natural response?
Who want to go first?
Ladies first, Joanne, ladies first. That's what I said.
Okay, as a Haitian woman, when somebody say, oh, I'm Haitian, the first thing that they say is like, oh, you don't look Haitian. And I'm like, what does a Haitian look like? And another thing, as a female, they'll be like, oh, you're pretty for a Haitian. And I'm like, do you not see my people? We're all beautiful. So that's very annoying.
Do you speak Haitian?
Yeah.
Do you speak Haitian is something I normally get. So I normally ask people, do you speak American? And they get really offended by that. So I say, well, what do you think is the same thing? Or they automatically assume that, oh, you Haitian, you speak Creole? You speak Louisiana Creole? So I'm like, no, that's a whole different aspect, whole different language. But that's one of the first things I normally get is, do you speak Haitian?
Yeah. See, now we got to separate it before the first earthquake or after the first earthquake. Because before the first earthquake, you know, people kind of looked at, oh, you're Haitian. Oh, okay. You know, like you do voodoo or you do, you know, the stereotypes. After the earthquake, I've gotten a lot more pity. Oh, you're Haitian. Oh, that's that country with that earthquake. Oh, you know, your family members died or whatever. Like, you know, were you stuck in the buildings? And like, no, I wasn't there. You know, or they say, you know, do you know Wyclef or you know Lauryn Hill or you know, just stuff like that. So it ranges from pity to just crazy off the wall questions to just like indifference, you know, it ranges. But,
And I do agree, especially after the second earthquake, people have definitely been more, you know, inclined to ask as far as, hey, you still got family down here, you know, you have property, you have X, Y, and Z. Again, I'm not sure if they're trying to be genuine or it's just the whole aspect of
being nosy.
Just being nosy.
Yeah.
All right. So without further ado, we're gonna move to the second question. And also Stan, I think we do have someone else that's about to join in a few minutes, but we'll do his introduction once he does join in. Give me 1 second. All right, so when people, so I know me growing up, I heard a lot about people saying like Haitian this, Haitian that, but why do you think so many people put a negative stigma behind when it deals with Haitian culture? Like what is the background of that? Why do everybody assume the worst?
I would say the media portrayal of us. Number one, you know, people only know what they're exposed to in the media. I mean, when have you seen good news about Haiti on the news? Like, you know, when have you seen a positive representation of Haitians in the media? People only understand what the media shows to them. And if you're constantly seeing bad news about a country, you are going to, of course, have negative connotations of that country and the inhabitants of that country. So to answer your question, I feel media plays the major role in how we're being perceived currently.
And that movie, Serpent of the Rainbow, is that the correct movie?
Yeah.
That back in the day, they thought like that was the whole depiction of Haiti, where we cut people's head off or we cut chickens' head off and we drink their blood and all that good stuff. And that was like the beginning of all, well, you know, as a young girl growing up in Brooklyn, that was the beginning. You know, Haiti was never thought of as the popular Caribbean culture anyway. It was always Jamaica, Trinidad, or something like that. But then when that movie came out, it was like, oh, you guys do that. That's where the home of voodoo came from. And it's not even good voodoo or bad voodoo, it's voodoo, period. And you guys cut chickens, and you drink their blood and all that horrible stuff. That was the biggest, I think, for me anyway, after that movie came out.
Yeah, you know, just the word Haiti means, you know, at times when people look at, you know, Greek mythology, you know, they think that Haiti is actually hell, quote unquote. So they automatically assume that Haiti is like a place of the damned. And to be honest, sometimes when you look at the news as far as everything that's going on, as far as earthquakes, as far as the recent, traumas as far as what's going on in Haiti. Of course, people don't think that, but a lot of people just don't understand, how beautiful our country is, how peaceful our country is. But as soon as anything bad happens, that's the first thing you want to talk about is Haiti's this, Haiti's that. But let's not forget we are, and still was the first nation in the world, to gain our independence, in 1804. So I think ever since that, people have really, well, I say the world has really been trying to, downplay what we have accomplished as a country, as a nation. And I think they have done their damnedest, they tried their best to negate everything that we actually did. Because again, we helped the United States back in the Civil War. I think we have a statue over there in South Carolina, which most people don't know. But yeah.
Okay.
And to add to the voodoo stereotype, what's ironic about that is voodoo in one way or another is practiced all over the world. The Spanish, they have Santeria, even here in America, the Caucasian culture, they have Wiccan, witchcraft, So voodoo in one way or another is practiced all over the world. But for some reason, when you think of those other cultures, their voodoo or their witchcraft is not the first thing that pops up. But for Haitians, that's the first thing they think about. So like I said, all that goes back to media portrayal, movies, things of that nature. And they put voodoo front and center. So even though it's practiced all over the world in some way, shape, or form. So that's kind of another thing with the whole voodoo aspect, stereotype.
Because if you really think about it, if Americans really go into their history, Haiti is all in there.
Mm-hmm.
All in there. Like Civil War, they actually went to Haiti to get our generals to teach them strategies on how to win the Civil War. And we had a big, our culture had a big part in helping the Union win the Civil War, but you won't ever hear that. And when we say that to other people, or we say that to other Americans, Black, white, or all in between, they're like, no, that's not true. But it really is.
There'd be no Chicago without Haitian. Jean-Baptiste Point-du-Sable, the third largest city in the country was founded by a Haitian man, but those type of things. I mean, if you live in Chicago, you'll see museums or monuments dedicated to them. But outside of Chicago, you would never know.
Yeah, I did not know that at all. I'm like,
oh, really?
I'm not
so true
on this call as well. So
there you go. Learn something every day.
Yeah. You was about to say something, Vlad?
No, I'm just agreeing. Again, not many people know that actually Chicago was founded by the Haitian man. So, agree.
Right. Brother Patrick, so the question was, why do people assume the worst when they hear someone of Haitian culture? You want to comment on that?
Yeah, I wanted to chime in. Okay, so good evening, everyone. I wanted to formally introduce myself. My full name is Patrick Jesse Jean-Baptiste. I am a brother of Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated, of course. Initiated fall 18, 6 of my line. But to answer your question, to be specific, as being the son of 2 immigrant parents coming directly from Haiti, the reason why I personally believe, especially being a part of like the younger generation, the reason why there is a ugly / like negative connotation when it comes to the portrayal of Haiti and Haitians is because of, it's all because of the source starting, to be honest with you. Unfortunately, when it comes to American media, the story is often twisted when you hear about the reports of Haitians and the history of Haitians, to be honest with you. Just like you guys were mentioning earlier, when you think about it, America in itself has Haiti written all over it. Central America has it. South America, to be specific, with the countries of Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, if I'm not mistaken, and a few other countries have literally have gotten help from Haiti directly to obtain their independence and to become the countries that they are today. And unfortunately, the people who write the history, the people who portray the history, who pass it on, are unfortunately not of Haitian descent or not directly of Afro-Haitian descent. So the specific image that is displayed is negatively twisted by whoever is in charge. And often, who do we see is in charge in America? The white American man who is of Anglo-Saxon descent. So anyone who doesn't understand their history, who doesn't know about like the Afrocentric based history, doesn't know a lot about the truth about Haiti. Hence why, if you see nowadays, a lot of people are starting to wake up and realize and read and start to get information from reliable sources from an Afrocentric aspect of history. And they're starting to realize that Haiti is very important, you know. So it all starts from how American media has started to portray Haitians. And overall, you know, I'm proud of my heritage and I'm proud of being Haitian. And the thing that's going to help change that portrayal is people learning their history first. It starts with education. And that's where I always say that, you know, it is our duty to teach our brothers and sisters to learn about the truth, especially for someone who's only me. I'm pretty sure I'm the youngest one on the call, but I can definitely share the same amount of history and knowledge, just like you are, even though I may be younger in age, but I am of knowledge just as everyone else. So it all starts at education, in my honest opinion.
Totally agree. And you know, to go back to one of the first, second question you asked, as far as what do most people ask you as far as when think about Haitians, Jean. Jean-Baptiste is a true, Patrick Jean-Baptiste is a true Haitian name.
True Haitian name.
Yeah. Having the last name Jean-Baptiste and being placed everywhere, it's already, I walk with the identity. I can't deny it. It's literally ingrained into me.
Okay. Joanne, you were about to say something as well?
No, I was about to say with Patrick, us two being first generation Haitian American, even it doesn't even really matter if you're youngest or oldest. If you're first generation Haitian American, and that means that your mother and your father was born, raised, and did everything in Haiti, and then just came over to have a better life, you have a different aspect and a different understanding of your culture because it's engraved in you. It doesn't matter that you were born here. You eat, sleep, think in Haitian culture. So it's a different mindset.
So that brings me into my next question, which is, how was your childhood when growing up as a first generation Haitian child?
Ooh, let me tell you, it sucked.
Boy.
It sucked.
Yeah.
We were not allowed to, there's no sleepovers. No, Haitian people do not trust. Haitian parents do not trust. Unless we actually are a very close-knit community. It doesn't matter where you are in this world. The Haitian culture is going to find itself, and the kids are only allowed to hang out with other kids. Like, I didn't even have friends growing up. I had my cousins. And if you had like Haitian friends, that's the only way, because that Haitian mother and that Haitian father, they can beat you. And I'm not talking about spanking. I'm talking about beat you, and there would be no questions. And you would go home and get beat all the time. Like for me, I actually had to go to ESL in elementary school because English was not my first language. I actually spoke Creole until I hit elementary school. And I will never forget that day that I went to school and they were like, yeah, she has to go to ESL. My mother was like, she was born here. They was like, yeah, Ms. Boosin, but what does Joanne speak? And she was like, she speaks Creole, like, duh. And that was like, that's why she has to go to ESL, because she speaks Creole and her mind does not speak in English. And to this day, I still have to, I know all of us can say that. Sometimes the words get mixed up in your head and you're like, oh, how do I say this in English? Because you really don't think in English. But growing up, it was horrible. It was horrible.
I wanted to add on to that because I'm only in my I'm in my 20s, so it's literally like it was like right there a few years ago. But now I'm about to be a college graduate now, and I finally in the Haitian culture, I'll say it specifically in Creole. So you always grow up in a household where it's just like so that means So that means two adults don't stay in one house. So that means as you grow up, there is no challenging of authority. Your parents are the ones who are in charge. They're the parents.
That's right.
If
No
they
matter
say
what
something,
age.
it sticks. It wasn't until I got to college that I started to gain more, freedom and started to do things on my own and kind of like taking the risk of, getting my own freedom, that my parents ended up respecting me and just saying like, wow, like, you've done all these things by yourself. We have to respect the fact that you're a young adult now, not just like a little kid. So, in the Haitian community growing up, Joanne just touched on it specifically. Growing up being a first generation Haitian American in the United States, it can be pretty tough. I was blessed enough to not necessarily be placed in ESL, and that's mainly because my mother known about like ESL because she came to the States and like, she went through high school here, but like she wasn't directly, like she didn't go get a college education, but she knew enough about the education system to challenge what they say. Because typically, from where I'm from South Florida. The school district specifically target any student that had a foreign last name. And who in South Florida has foreign last name is typically the Islanders, specifically Haitians and Latinos. So, they go by the last name basis. And thankfully, my mom knew about the system to not be placed. And unfortunately, like Joanne, a lot of first generation Haitian American children are placed into ESL because of the assumption that they can't speak both English and Creole at the same time. And that's where it leads to, like, when you develop as an adult, you think in two languages at the same time, and sometimes it doesn't collaborate. But overall, I was going to touch on another aspect too. It's the bullying. A lot of Haitian Americans, it sucks because you battle with your culture at home. Your parents, they raise you in the Haitian culture, but the culture you deal with 9 to 5 is the American culture. And the thing that sucks is we all here are, dark skinned Black people. So people that, like, there is no, concept of like, oh, like you're Haitian directly. Like, you have people who literally don't know who you are and they just lump you into the sect of Black people. They don't challenge that at all when it comes to like racial issues. But what sucked was growing up, you get a lot of challenges from your fellow Black people, like from your fellow African Americans, Jamaicans, Bahamians, other islanders. And they're the ones that like, call you names, they call it out your name, they threaten you, they bully you. And then you have to grow up with all of that while learning how to be active in school to make sure you're getting good grades and to handle like making your parents proud at the same time. So that's where a lot of a lot of first generation Haitian Americans end up like being advocates when they're older, like yourselves here, to teach the next of kin, like their siblings or their cousins who are younger than them, to make sure that their parents are checking in on them even more. Because growing up, it's tough. Not gonna lie to you, you get bullied by everybody. And we didn't get that chance to have somebody check in on us as I am to do it to my siblings or my younger ones. Because we're the first hitters, we're the first targets. We are literally the scapegoats to let like everybody else younger than us pass through.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there's one word that, well, a couple bad words that they used to call us, but Haitian booty scratcher.
Yep.
Back
HBO.
Yep. It and again, I grew up in the 90s and in New York, the suburbs of New York. How about that, right? But
yeah, I'm about to say
it was a totally different experience because one, again, the people who made fun of us the most was the quote unquote Black Americans. They would clown on us as far as how we dress, how we talk, how we walk. Now we have to understand, again, coming from Haiti, we were used to dressing up as far as in shoes, as far as in slacks, as far as stuff like that. So when we came here and we went to school like that, they're looking at us like as if we Muslim. You're saying it's looking like we trying to sell some bean pies. By all means, that's not how that. Our parents didn't have the money. You know, our
Mhm.
parents, you know, quote unquote, till this day, probably still don't have the money because you know why? Because we have family back home that we feel obligated to take care of. Because you don't understand, you know, obviously, yes, our country is poor, but we are rich and, you know, rich in everything else. And growing up, you know, we had the 3 L's: Lakai, L'école, and L'église.
Call
L'église. L'église.
Yes, sir.
Home,
Home,
school,
school,
and church.
Church. Yep.
And by all means, you couldn't not go anywhere else. There was no aspect of, I mean, even back then, we didn't know what trick or treating was.
Mhm.
We didn't know what spades was. To be honest, for a long time, again, you know, Brooklyn
I
people
did.
may know
I
that, but
did.
for a long time, all these American games. Shoot, I didn't even know what American football was for the longest. It's because of the fact that, because again, we didn't grow up with these stuff. Our community was very tight knit, and like you said, like Joanne said, you know, and everybody else said, is that we had to, just like every other Caribbean culture, we know that it's us against the world, and that's how all Caribbean people feel, because we are raised a certain way. We are raised with discipline.
Mhm.
You cannot speak back to your parents without getting slapped. You cannot even say "huh" and not get slapped, because that means that you're being disrespectful. We could even have, back in the days, I could even have a part in my hair. Yeah, when I had hair, if I had tried to have a part, that would be considered to be you are a bum. If you slagging your pants, you're a bum. If you got big jeans, you're a bum. So
if you had an earring in your ear, guys had earrings in their ear, you a bum.
or you're a drug dealer. So
Yep.
so obviously we can laugh at it now, but the fact of the matter is that us Haitians, we grow up from not having a lot. So we know that, hey, when we do have something, we celebrate. And to be honest, that's why a lot of Haitians you meet, including myself, we are very cocky.
Yep.
And the reason why is that because everybody hates a Haitian, but everybody loves a Haitian, because you know why? Because quote unquote we get it popping. No matter what the situation is, Haitian, if you got a Haitian friend, that Haitian friend is gonna be down for your cause. They're gonna be loyal, and most important, they're gonna try to do everything they possibly can to help you out, because we know where we came from and we didn't have anything. So having a helping hand makes a difference.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm gonna put in a little too, because I was raised in Brooklyn, New York, where it wasn't Flatbush, because like Flatbush is where all the majority of the Caribbeans were. No, I was in Crown Heights, where it was more just African American, not even a lot of Spanish and a lot of Jewish. It was a very small knit Haitian community. I fought every day.
Oh.
I
Wow.
fought every day. Like I have hands. Like I had to fight every single
Wow.
day, because
With the razor blade in your mouth.
stop.
Oh,
I
snap.
left that. I left that at yes. No, I'm not gonna lie. Yes, with the razor blade in the mouth, because I'm the baby of 4,
Mhm.
and I grew up with my brother. He was called Little Boots. He was called Big Haiti. He always promoted him being Haitian. But then I had 2 other sisters that literally did not want to get bullied. So they denied that they were Haitian. They said that they were Jamaican. They said that they were Trinidadian, and they had the skin complexion to say that they were. But you know, my beautiful dark skinnedness, my brother was like, "You're not going to deny who you are."
Mhm.
He said, "If anybody asks you, say you Haitian, and if they say something to you, punch them in their face." And that's exactly what I did.
Right.
And that's how I had to actually get respect on my block, because it was really, really bad. Like growing up in Brooklyn, if you weren't on Flatbush, because Flatbush and Church Avenue, that's where all the Caribbeans lived. So you had a good little community. But the further you went away from it, where I was actually closer to the Brooklyn Bridge. So I wasn't, it took 30 minutes to get to Church Avenue and Flatbush. So it was us. And it honestly was me and my brothers and my cousins. And they knew from elementary school to junior high school to even high school. They was like, the Bootons are here. We don't play fair. We jump people, because if one is fighting, all of us is fighting. And it was really violent, because we got the Haitian booty scratches. We got the AIDS. You brought AIDS to us and all that good stuff. So my mother always said, don't start a fight, you're not a bully, but if they start it, you better finish it. And she had no time to actually check on us. Just don't fail your classes. And if you get into a fight and I have to be called, because you can't call, do not have somebody call your parents at work because they have to go to work. So my mother always said, if they call my house, you better have won that fight.
Right. Everyone pretty much covered 95% of what I was gonna say. Two quick points also wanted to add as far as the experience of growing up Haitian and growing up, diaspora. I was born in Haiti, came here when I was 4. You grow up quickly when you around Haitian family, like you mature quickly because you're helping your parents. They're still learning the language. They're still trying to adapt to the American culture. And, I was helping my mom fill out job applications when I was 13 years old. Like when they get a letter in the mail, come read this letter for me. Yeah. We're like the secretaries of the family, so we mature so much quicker than American children in that sense, because we're the gateway between the Haitian culture and the American culture, and helping out our parents. And, and even with our younger siblings, you have a little brother, little sister come home, niece can't understand their homework. Your parents are gonna help them. You're, as the older sibling, I know from my experience, I was helping, my younger sibling with their homework, Right. So you grow up a lot quicker, having a parent, from Haiti. Another thing too, as far as how we're respected amongst African Americans, amongst Americans, to me, it's like a love-hate relationship. They love our culture. True. Don't get me wrong, they love our culture, like, Fuji's, Lauryn Hill, and Kodak Black, and Garcelle Beauvais. They love our entertainers, and you even see Black African-American rappers, Future, Lil Wayne, some of their videos, they had Haitian flags, and, they love our culture, but they don't really care for us as people. Correct me if I'm wrong, y'all. Like, they'll rep our culture when it's convenient, but as far as knowing our struggle, what we go through as people, as far as understanding Haiti itself, there's an ignorance, So it's like one going to school, somebody might call me, HBO, you got Haitian body odor, Haitian booty scratcher. Then the next person is like, yo, I know you heard that new Kodak Black, or that new, well, I'm a little older, that new, white clef or whatever. So it's like, and to this day, it's still this way. So it's like you got a little bit of everything. You got the love, you got the hate, you got all of that from the American culture, from African Americans.
Let me jump in real quick. I actually have a question. So like Joanne, I grew up in Brooklyn, and so when Joanne mentioned, huh? Oh yeah. I went to high school with you name a Caribbean country, there was somebody from my high school that went to it, South Shore High School. Anyways, so it's okay school. Anyways, so when Joanne talks about Flatbush and church, I'm like, yeah, definitely. Joanne's 125% accurate with that. Also, the junction.
Junction.
Yes, Flatbush and Nostrand, when they intersect, what's that other street? I forgot what that third street is, but anyways, so that area is very much Caribbean centric. But let me ask you guys this. So I remember when I got to high school, so growing up in Brooklyn, all of my schools were pretty much black and white. There was no Caribbean. But when I got to high school, that's when I started recognizing countries, because people were repping their countries hard. Of course, Jamaicans were pretty much ran everything. It seemed like you had Trinis, you had Puerto Ricans, you had Dominicans, you had all of that, and they were not afraid to tell you where they were from. The flags, everything, they did not care. But Haitians, not too much. And so Was that now, mind you, I'm talking about, I mean, look young, but I'm actually pretty old. So I'm talking about like, this was when I got to high school, like mid 90s. And
So
yes,
can I interject, Stan? And the reason
go ahead.
why? So, okay, being Haitian is like being Iota.
That's a very good, yeah, that's
I
very
like
true.
that.
That's the straight up answer, right? It's hard to be a Haitian because you know why? Because a lot of people have that stigma that Haitians are just ignorant, stupid, loud, whatever it may be. But a lot, and I think at the same time too, that's how a lot of us Caribbeans are. We are passionate, we are loud, we talk with our hands, we talk with our emotions. But to answer your question, Stan, you have to understand too. A lot of time back in the days, we were bullied so much that a lot of Haitians would say they're from Canada because a lot of us spoke French. You know, I took French in college. I got a C, so I felt very embarrassed about that. Right. So a lot of people felt back in the 90s that, hey, I can't be a Haitian because of the fact that if I am, I'm going to get called a Haitian booty scratcher. I'm going to be said I do voodoo. I'm going to be picked on me because of the fact that I talk this. But if I say I'm Jamaican, they might go bo. You know, at the time, right? There's dancehall music going on and reggae going on, so it's easy for somebody to say, "Yep, I'm Jamaican. Yep, I'm Trini. Yep, I'm this." But a lot of times, it was. I'll be honest with you. The real Haitians back then were the ones who said, "I'm from Haiti," no matter what the situation was. Like again, we got caught, saying that we did AIDS, we did this, we did that, we did everything. So to be a Haitian is the equivalent of being of a quote unquote Iota, that nobody give you that respect, but at the same time too, we demand our respect because you know why? Because we here and we gonna show out and we're gonna show you that hey, we gonna represent.
And you just had to be back in the 90s again. I was in the 90s. I was still in junior high school. I wasn't in high school yet, but you had to in Brooklyn. You had to be prepared to fight. If you said you were Haitian, you just had to prepare. And unfortunately, a lot of people didn't have like a brother like me. Like my brother, he was like, don't come in his house losing a fight. And so he taught us how to fight and he taught us how to be aggressive. We never looked for it, but I promised you, because he said, if somebody asks you if you're Haitian, and I'm proud that my brother taught me that, if anybody asks you if you're Haitian, you be proud and you say you're Haitian, and whatever comes from that, it is what it is. If they deserve to get their butt whooped, it is what it is. Don't disrespect my culture. Don't disrespect my island, because we deserve that. We 1804 here. Right. We deserve that respect. So if you don't want to respect us, we're going to take our respect. Absolutely. And that's why a lot of Haitians in the 90s, they didn't want those problems. So it was easier just to say that they were from another culture. But now, after like the first earthquake, did you see how many people said they were Haitians? I said, for real? Since when?
After the Fugees,
right?
After the
Fugees, right?
After '96, after '96, that's when everything changed for us because of the fact that one group. You know, again, it's crazy how important music is, right? It's important how this one group can change a whole aspect because after that, everybody was claiming to be Haitian. Everybody. And I'm like, dang, last week you was a Jamaican and now you want to represent who you really are.
Vlad, don't forget also Garcelle Beauvais. When the Jamie Foxx show came out, and everybody's like, wow, who's that? She Haitian?
She Haitian?
Exactly.
I'm telling you, it's like it all changed in the late 90s. It all changed. I mean, it didn't change completely. The ignorance of the country, like I said before, the ignorance of the country itself was still there. But we were slowly starting to get a little bit more respect. It wasn't like we weren't embarrassed to be Haitian, our parents might have been in the early 90s or before,
Okay.
Yeah.
So my next question would be, for those who were either first generation and also those who were born in Haiti, do you think there is a split in your culture now with the generation starting to progress of the Haitian Americans?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They don't speak Creole. Like, I can't stand that. Like, after first generation, you get a little bit of the second generation if their grandmother, if they have a grandparent, because their grandparent, I'm gonna tell you right now, all grandparents are not speaking English to you. And they'll
Nope.
tell you, my grandmother used to tell me, when you hit 5E, this is Haitian territory. You only speak Creole.
Right.
You don't have an elder like that actually forces you to speak the language. That second, third generation, they soft. I'm sorry. They they soft. They get a lot, they get away with a lot of things that the first generation or born Haitians cannot get away with. So I think I put it upon myself as the first generation to instill the strictness that my parents instilled in me, because you're not getting it easy. I didn't get it easy. You have to speak Creole, and I cannot stand the fact that our second, third, and sometimes fourth generations don't speak Creole, because it's a beautiful language and it's wonderful that you can just switch it up when you want.
To add on to that, I definitely agree, because I witness that at home sometimes. I'll go back home and visit, and then I'm seeing how my mom and dad are, like, actually pleading with my younger siblings and then giving them deals and stuff. Like, I'm just like, y'all didn't do that with me. Y'all didn't do that with me. Y'all didn't bargain with me. If I said something against y'all will, y'all hit me. Or y'all said, like, oh, or I'm the adult of the house, don't challenge my word. It's always the oldest, or like the first one, the first one to be born in the States that gets it the worst. And then the younger siblings reap the benefits of our sacrifices. And one thing I noticed too is just nowadays with kids, with the advancement of social media and everything, that also creates the distance between a lot of generational like second, third generation Haitians, because these kids are stuck on their computers, they're on social media, they're just they're just taking in the information that's fed to them, and then they're just going around with the notion that, like, they're just Haitian. I just call them, I have a specific name for them. They're Haitian by nationality, not by experience, not by anything. They're Haitian by nationality and blood. That's it, not by experience, because they carry the last name, they carry the family name, but in terms of experience, they don't practice it. A lot of people are stepping out of like the Haitian culture, like they're kind of like stepping into the more Americanized culture. And that's where like you get more Americanized Haitian people nowadays, where, they have the name, they have the title, and then they'll tell you they're Haitian, but you ask them, okay, let's have a conversation in Haitian Creole. They can't speak a word,
Word.
or,
Well,
you have an event where, like, there's the elderly and you need to help them and stuff like that. Then you face a language barrier where, like, you got people like as old as my grandmothers, my older aunts, my older uncles, people I personally used to translate documents for, or I used to help with job application, stuff like that. You ask a kid who's like 15, 16 years old, now they'll be like, I don't really speak the language like that, and then that creates problems. And then to add on to what Joanne said, basically, I'm an older man in spirit because I've gotten a lot from, my mother and my grandmother. So I believe that, like, these kids are being, like, they're built soft nowadays because their parents have given like leeway for them. Their older siblings, their older cousins paved the way for them, and then they just relax. And I believe that, there should be a continuation of that, strict older adult or a group of adults, that family, to keep that culture going in. Because if you look at other cultures, let's take, for example, the Hispanic culture, the kid can be born fresh out the womb. They can speak Spanish and English fluently. So why can't we, just because you're born in the States doesn't mean that you're not Haitian, And that's where a lot of people have faced problems, because a lot of older Haitians that were born and raised in Haiti and came here like young adults or adults themselves have this tendency to separate the Haitian Americans that were first generation that were born here, and to make them seem like, oh, I've gotten a lot in the past, like, oh, c'est américain, yeah, c'est blanc, yeah, which translates,
Yeah.
It blow you.
Yeah.
blanc, yeah, you're basically white. it's a joke on joke, Haitians say. And, you know, that also discourages a lot of young Haitian Americans to be like, you know, my cousins are making fun of me because I was born in the States, and, you know, they're basically not claiming me as Haitian as well, too. So that's another factor as well, too, that I've seen personally.
But Patrick, you know, I just want to say something real quick, but Patrick, you know, there's a phrase for a first generation like us, or that first generation. We're petit de souffrance. We are the children of the suffering.
Suffering.
You know, the children of the suffering, the petit de souffrance. Like that's basically that means is we're the ones that suffered for the rest of them. We're the child. Like we were the experiment. You know, our parents came out here. They didn't know what to expect. They don't know how the country operates. You know, they depended on us to kind of figure it out for them. And then we're the ones that educated them, that explained to them, okay, well, this is how this works. This is how that works. So then when the younger siblings come around, it's smoother for them. So we're always the experiment, first generation, always. You know, so it's like another thing too, like I remember like, you used to be able to like visit Haiti. Like we used to take trips to Haiti. So, because for you to understand your culture, you have to be immersed in it. And it's like the younger generation, either they don't want to go to Haiti, don't care to go to visit Haiti. They, you know, sometimes Haiti is just too dangerous for anyone to go. So if you're not immersed in that culture, you don't walk down those dirt roads to go visit your grandmother and go, you know, immerse yourself in the culture from time to time. The culture will slowly be lost. So that's kind of another reason, you know.
So let me say this, right? I agree and disagree to a certain extent, right? So the reason why I disagree is that when you're in Rome, you do as the Romans do, right? You have to. So we have to keep in mind that a lot of people, so such as myself, right? Yes, I still speak my language, but my language is not strong anymore. Because when I was brought here back in the days when I was 6, I was told that I had to speak English. I already knew how to speak Creole, but I had to go to school. So when we came home, my parents were yes, we were speaking Creole, but we were also forced to speak English because we had to speak English because that's the way that we have to communicate. So now, you know, you got to remember also that, you know, majority of us are getting older and our parents are getting older. So, you know, now, you know, our parents start to become grandmothers and stuff like that and grandfathers, and they're not staying here. They're going back home, and they're not trying to raise any kids because of the fact that, you know, they did their whole lives raising everybody else. So now, again, you're starting to lose that aspect. So now when we start having kids and stuff like that, like you just said, we can't send our kids to Haiti for a whole summer like we used to do back in the days, because of the fact that you said Haiti's at a point. It's not like back in the I'll say the early 2000s and stuff like that, when things was a little bit peaceful. Things is not where it is right now, and I think a lot of the reason why is that because now these younger kids are speaking English because they have to, because this is what they're used to, and quote unquote, I think they still have the pride of being Haitian, because let's not get that mistaken. But because of the fact that we are here and our parents also, they've been away from their culture as well. So, and this is why a lot of times, you know, we just like anybody else, we tend to cluster around our people so that way that we don't lose our heritage. But being down here in the United States, even if you're in Little Haiti and stuff like that, you know, where all the quote unquote Haitians are, right? You still gonna get that influence from the American culture, because that's what we see every day. We don't see, 24/7 news about Haiti on this and that, unless you go look for it. So unfortunately, it's a balance of trying to remain who you are, but at the same time try to be Americanized, because you are in America, and let's be honest, Americans don't give a damn about anybody else but Americans. So if you're going to come there again, so like I guess for the Spanish people, you know, because I guess American is I guess the first language, but okay, English is the first language, but the second language is Spanish. Let's be honest. We're not gonna. So the Haitian culture is like, I think all the other Caribbean islands with the speak some type of English. We don't, so it's hard for us to communicate with other Americans, Jamaicans, whatever it may be, unless we have that common barrier of English. So that's when we start to say, you know what, I gotta speak English, because if I don't, I can't communicate.
But I think that it's not the fact that you can't, you have to speak English. But just like myself, I had to speak English in school, but we also had to speak Creole at home. And I think that that's what I think is missing, is the fact that when you're home, we're not speaking Creole to our, nephews and nieces and stuff like that. And that's where it gets lost, because in all honesty, we can't ask society to teach our, generation Creole. It's our job. And I'm not gonna lie, as a first generation Haitian American, I think that that's where we fail, because the adults are gone. They're either retiring, they've passed away, or they're just tired and they're not going to do it. And I think that that's where we as first generation failed our, the youngest ones, because we're not talking Creole with them.
Well, we beat them like we Haitian.
We do.
Joanne say, Joanne can contest.
No, babe.
Joanne can contest.
Quiet, Vladimir. No, but I'm just saying, I think that's where we fail. I think we failed that, because all of us are first generation or born Haitians, born on the land. And can you say that when you speak to your nieces, nephews, brothers and sisters, are you actually speaking Creole with them? Because I know sometimes when I get mad, I'm not gonna lie, when I get mad, that's when the Creole comes out, because it's just the easiest thing. That's the first thing that comes in my head, and all the Haitian curse words come out faster. But other than that, I think we have to do a better job.
I think
something I wanted to add to that, part of what Vladimir said, as far as why Spanish people have it a little easier, Hispanics have it a little easier. I feel that our Haitian communities here in America are dwindling. Like the way Flatbush looked 20, 30 years ago compared to how Flatbush looks now.
Don't look.
You go down to little Haiti is half the size it was compared to the 80s and 90s. Our communities, when you used to talk about Haitian communities, Haitian strongholds, Little Haiti, Flatbush, Boston, parts of Boston, a lot of those communities are dwindling due to gentrification. Meanwhile, on the flip side, the Spanish communities are getting bigger and stronger. Me living in Orlando, there's a part of Orlando called BVL, which is like Little Puerto Rico. And you got people there that came from Puerto Rico, been living there 30 years, never learned a lick of English, and they still get by. They work, they have the little bodegas, the little shops, and even in New York, parts of Queens or the Bronx, they don't need to learn English. Everything they need is like right there within their neighborhood. They don't need to learn the language, Meanwhile, our communities aren't as tight knit, so it's like we come over, you gotta learn English. You know what I'm saying? You won't survive here if you don't learn English. The Spanish people don't have that problem because their communities are so tight knit. I'm telling you, certain places you go, these people have been here 30, 40 years, never learned English, never cared to learn English, and they get by just fine.
And to add on to that point, lastly, to be honest, yeah, you're exactly right, to be honest with you, because you see it every day. And like, I would always hear complaints from my parents, you'd be like, they ask you like, oh, you'll ask them, oh, are you going to work today? Oh, my kai blanc, right? I'm going to go work for the white man, right? And like, sometimes, they go with this impression of like, oh, don't work, don't trust Haitian people sometimes, because they move funny, some people, they might steal from you, they might do this. Unfortunately, that carries on throughout the entire community. And then that's where you see a lot of Haitians step away from their communities. They go work for, Americans, they go work for Spanish people, they go work for everyone else, and they never want to give back to their communities. And that's what sucks.
It's true.
You know, we want people, we come to the United States to get poured into, we get the information poured into us, and then we don't pour it back to the community. And that's where it sucks. And that's where, you know, even though I'm young, that's what, like, you know, I have initiative to go back home and take, you know, pride to go, like, you know, start off something like a nonprofit where I can teach people the basics, you know, as much as, you know, just as much as Hispanics are coming here, Haitians are coming here every day. I got cousins coming to the States every single day. So, you know, like, I have to provide, you know, being, you know, soon to be college educated graduate, you know, I have to be able to understand the culture here in the United States and break it down to my cousins who just got here from Haiti, or just might have came from another country and then got to the United States. You know, we got to be able to build those platforms just like the Hispanic community have. So it all starts with, like, learning how to invest back into our own communities at the end of the day.
You don't have to keep bragging, man. We know you're young. You don't have to keep bragging.
So rub it in our face.
So let me jump in. Let me jump in and ask
Stop.
you guys sort of the next question. So every few years, Haiti makes international news, often for something not good, be it some sort of violence, be it a natural disaster, whatever. So when you hear about, let's take the most current example with the Haitians working away, trying to cross the border into the United States. What goes through you guys' minds when you see the news and things like that happening? And then when people build this negative perception of Haitians based on what you see in the media, how do you, like, where do you go from there with that?
So I know for me, like, okay, so there's a big misunderstanding about like how Haitians went from Mexico to United States. You have to remember, before the earthquake, before the assassinations, Haitians they actually left Haiti. Like, they would, instead of coming to the United States, they would be like, I don't want to come to the United States. They'll go to Belize. They'll go to Chile, and they are honestly living great lives for years on end. And so when the earthquake happened and then the assassination happened, they weren't taking, Haitians wasn't really coming from Haiti. They were actually living in Chile and Belize and being kicked out of that country and being deported to Mexico, then being deported from Mexico to the United States. And, you know, I'm not saying that there weren't Haitians coming from Haiti into the United States too, but I think that that's the biggest misconception, is like, oh, they went from Haiti to Mexico or from Haiti to Chile or whatever. No, Haitians were living in all of these islands. Like, there's a lot of Haitians in Barbados. There's a lot of Haitians in the Bahamas and things like that people don't know, living very successful and prosperous lives. But because all of this stuff that happened, especially with the assassination, the countries were just kicking Haitians out, and they took them and put them and sent them to Mexico. And my problem is that it's always pray for Haiti this, pray for Haiti that, Haiti strong. I'm getting tired of that. Y'all talk a good game. Y'all talk a real good game about pray for Haiti. No, don't pray for Haiti. Help Haiti, and help Haiti the right way. And that's my biggest beef, is because it's all like, we deserve it because we made a deal with the devil, and that's why we got our independence. No, we knew what to do, and we fought for our freedom. It had nothing to do with voodoo and things like that. It's just where our island is actually situated. We are situated on a very active plate. We can't change that. Right. We can't change our location. So every couple of years, yes, will Haiti get hit with an earthquake? Yes. Will Haiti get hit with tornadoes and earthquakes? Yes, because that plate is very, very, very active. That has nothing to do, we didn't put that there. That's God put that there. So right. I feel like that's the biggest thing. And then people we can help ourselves. Yes, don't get me wrong. Haitians, we're very resilient people. People want to help, and I understand that, but I can't. It's like the information that's being given is so wrong. and you don't know where to start to fix that.
So
Right.
I'm gonna say, so go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm gonna say this, right? I'm gonna quote a great philosopher of our time. His name is Too Short. That's
Okay.
Donald Trump. Right? And the reason why I say that is because it's of stupid, ignorant comments that you know that's in the news right now that give us Haitians such a bad stigma. You have people of power who have no freaking clue of what the hell is going on, no evidence, no facts, nothing, and saying a ridiculous claim like that. So when stuff like that is in the news, and again, let's be honest, we Haitians, we could have been chilling, mind our own businesses, and then boom, Haitians are the reason why this AIDS here. Really?
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 Right.
Like I said,
Really?
to quote the great philosopher Too Short, F. Donald Trump.
And look, totally agree. And the thing is, it goes back to the love-hate relationship they have with our country. You know, for this gentleman to say the things he said, yet a lot of the problems Haiti has now, you can blame on foreign nations that got involved in our country, that tried to exploit, that are still trying to exploit our country. Haiti has so many natural resources, but you'll never hear that in the news. But these other countries know about it. You know, they, you know, you see, you look at like Afghanistan, and you look at a lot of these unstable countries. What's the common connection? What other country is always involved in their affairs that created a good deal of the problems those countries have now? You know, we don't need to say it on here, but you see where I'm going. And a lot of the problems of Haiti can be traced back with these other countries meddling in our affairs, getting, you know, they're placing their own people, you know, in our government and our politics that will serve their best interest and not Haiti's best interest. You know, you have a lot of that. And then when something bad happens, poor Haiti, you know, and it's sickening, it's depressing. You know, it's like that fake friend, you know, that steals money from you, and you don't know, you may not know they're stealing money from you. And when you tell them, man, somebody stole money from you, man, I don't know. Oh, sorry to hear that, bro. Here's $20. But that was your $20. You know what I'm saying? That they you know, they stole it and giving it back. And you may not even realize it, or you do realize it, but there's nothing you can do. So Haiti's problems is a lot of that. Our country gets exploited, and then when things take a turn for the worse, oh, we need to help Haiti. We need to give foreign aid. We need to, y'all taking our resources in the first place.
Yep. And the biggest thing about it, people keep saying that Haiti is a poor country. Haiti's not poor. Haiti's very rich.
Right.
But they just don't give the money to the people. Haiti is a very wealthy country. It's just not being given to the people. It's like us being Americans paying our taxes, and we don't get the benefits from the tax. We don't get jobs. We don't get Medicare. We don't get none of that. Why is Haiti have so much money being sent to them, but they have no insurance, no health insurance? They have no, you know, nothing. Literally, everything that they have to do is they have to pay out of pocket. It's very strategic, and I can't stand when people say that Haiti is a poor country, because we're not. We are there's a very rich, empowered country that have a lot of resources, but the problem is that you don't see it because we're being exploited and the money is going into other people's pockets. Right. And so it's crazy, because even the president of Haiti, he doesn't get his before he, but I'm not gonna say the president that got assassinated, but it's very well known that the government, they don't get their health care in Haiti. If they get sick, you know what they do? They take a jet to Miami and go and get help in Miami and then come back. Why can't you do that for your people? If you can do that, like it boggles my mind.
Right, and you gotta see, if you Google Haiti in the 50s and 60s, you look at the photographs, you look at the postcards, Haiti was a tourist destination. Haiti was up there with Bahamas, Jamaica. Like, white people flocked to Haiti, you know, for their honeymoons and their vacations. Like, you know, but the thing is, slowly over time, like I said, these other countries put their people deep into our political system. They infiltrated our political system and corrupted it from the inside out and turned Haiti to mostly what you see today, you know? But Haiti was one of the most beautiful, it still is, but 50 years ago, people had a positive connotation with Haiti. Haiti was this beautiful island, you know, but it got corrupted from the inside out by these other nations.
Okay. All right. And my final question before we close out for the night is, what could we do to help the immigrants that are coming into the States now, and also those that are still on the mainland? How can we help them? Like you said, they don't need aid, but what can we do otherwise to help them?
Opportunity.
Yeah.
Opportunity.
Opportunity.
Ability.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think it's just like any other. I mean, because let's be honest, this is not a Haitian thing, right? This is not this is a person thing, a people thing, right? No matter what nation, no matter what island, country, whatever little rock that you call out, everybody just wants. No one truly wants a handout, you know. Everybody wants the opportunity to provide for their family and do what's necessary. And I think it sucks because of the fact that, again, we do know where we live, and other people of different hues are gonna get better opportunities because of the fact of that. So it's what I think, again, this is a human issue, not a Haitian thing or anything like that. You know, everybody just want the opportunity to be able to you know, provide, because that's why everybody comes here, right? Everybody comes to the States for that opportunity to live that quote unquote American dream, no matter what the situation is. It could be, I mean, it could be own your own business. It could just be, you know, trying to just live. But I think, to me, this is this whole aspect of opportunity and understanding as far as where they're coming from, because a lot of immigrants, you know, from everywhere else, they're leaving their what they know as everything, and you're trying just for a better life here, and no matter what the situation is, because again, it's what we consider to be poor back home or somewhere else. That's a luxury. You know, we know people who still don't have running water, or you gotta go to our house. You know, so coming here and having quote unquote all these luxuries that some people take for granted. Let's be honest, a lot of us do. Some people will kill for that.
And my thought process is like the aid that's already being provided, like when the first earthquake hit, it was like over a bunch of millions of dollars. I can't put a number on it, but I know it was millions of dollars that was given to Haiti. Having it being used in the right way, you know, like not going into people's pockets, but literally investing it into the people so they can have opportunities to work. Our people in Haiti don't want to just be sitting there doing nothing. We're not that type of people. We're not lazy people. But if there's nothing else to do, you can, all you have to do is just sit. So just like what Vladimir just said, opportunity for, especially in the mainland. You know, the money is there. Why not invest in your country? Why not give the opportunity to the people to build their own country? When the first and the second earthquake hit, it was Haitians that cleaned up the streets. It wasn't these aides that were coming in to help. No, it wasn't, because the aides never came.
Mm-hmm.
It never came. So they said, oh, okay, well, all this millions of dollars came to Haiti, but it didn't come to us. So what we're going to do, they made makeshift things to, you know, take the boulders out of the streets and make their country better the best way they can. So I feel like if you're going to invest in Haiti, invest it in the right way and allow the people to prosper in their own country so they can make a better life for themselves.
I say there's a two-pronged approach. There's two different ways I see the country can be better. The first way, it all starts with the children. It all starts with the kids. It starts with education. You hear about these murders and these killings in Haiti. It's these gang leaders that recruit these young kids. They give these little 6, 7, 8-year-olds these machine guns and these guns, and they wreak havoc. In Haiti, there is no public school. Like only the wealthy can afford to, or middle class can afford to bring their kids to school. So if your family is poor, you're not going to school. There is no public schools in Haiti. That's a problem, And yes, some churches have built little orphanages and missionaries have their little schools, but they're few and far between, and that's not going to help the whole country. It all starts with giving the children something to do, giving them an equal shot at education. Like here in America, education is a right. It's not a privilege. Unfortunately, in Haiti and other countries, third world countries, education is a privilege. And a lot of people don't realize that. It starts with the new generation, build them up, make them strong. They're going to be the leaders. If not, the wealthy are going to educate their kids and then send them off to Canada, send them to the U.S., and then the brain drain will continue. A second approach is, let's look at Africa. Let's look at how certain African countries did it. 20 years ago, nobody was checking for Nigeria or Ghana. Like these countries were dirt poor. Now, when you think of Nigerians, their culture, their music is everywhere. They're, when you see images, I would tell you, even me as a Haitian, like 20 years ago, I thought all Africans lived in huts, but now you're like, dang, those Nigerians, like the world's richest Black man, I think, is a Nigerian man. So they were able to lift their country out of poverty. They all got together, worked together, and built something special. And now they're one of the most prosperous African nations. We should look towards their strategies. How did they lift their people out of poverty? How did they elevate their country? It's possible to get a country out of poverty. It's just, you have to, I feel, start with the younger generation, make sure they get their education and implement certain policies and try get the outsiders out of the way. One way or another, that's the biggest thing. We got to get American interest or Venezuelan, Colombian interest, get these people out of our country. And what do Haitians need? How can Haitians help each other? These are the things that need to be done.
So on that note, just to close it out, Vlad, Sam, Joanne, Patrick, let me tell you, as someone who grew up in New York City, as someone who grew up around Caribbean people, have had Haitian friends, I think I've learned more in this conversation than I've ever had regarding the Haitian experience. And so I would like to thank all of you for taking time to share your personal experiences, to share your thoughts. But I think the one thing we should all leave here and understand is that the Haitian experience is diverse. There's no cookie cutter way to be a Haitian, be it whether you were born here or be it if you were born in Haiti. And so you look at Haitian people, you have to realize they have the same wants and dreams as everyone else.
Yep.
You think back to the Pilgrims. Yeah, I'm going back that far. Well, you think back to the Pilgrims, they came here for the same reason that Haitians are coming here, for a better life, for better opportunities. And so I think in a lot of ways, when we look at negative news coverage and when we look at coverage and starts to paint people into boxes, I think we start to lose the humanity. We don't see people as human. We see people as things or stereotypes. And hopefully this conversation, when it comes to Haitians, be it in America, be it in Haiti, that they don't operate in boxes. They're just like you and me. And so again, I would like to thank our panelists. I like to thank everyone who say hello in the chat, ask questions, everyone who's tuned in. Of course, shameless plug, this will be on the Triangle Iotas website, triangleiotas.org/blog. And if you're not following us on Facebook, I don't understand why you're not, because this is where we do programs like this. And this is where you want to know what's going on in the chapter. You want to know this, the type of programs that we do in the community, you will find it on our Facebook page. So like our Facebook page, like us on Instagram, Triangle_Iotas. And on that note, everyone stay safe and don't look at people through boxes.
And Fred, I need that shirt you're rocking. I need that shirt. We gotta find a way to ship that to me.
I really need
like
that shirt.
I saw it a while back on another brother, and I never was able to get one for me. But yeah, I'm gonna holler at Chapter. I need that shirt. Size large, please.
And I'm gonna give you like question mark emojis because I don't remember how I got this shirt. This shirt is probably like a year ago. I kid you not. Man. I think maybe if you know David Odige, I think I got it from him. So I would ask him.
There you go.
So on that note, thank you everyone. Have a great evening and just stay tuned for our next event.
Bonne nuit.
All right.
Bonne nuit.
Ow.
And we are off. So yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, he
I was trying to hang up. Trying to hang up, but it didn't.
No, they're like, we out.
He gonna come downstairs.
Yeah, you can hang out. We're done. So thank you, Joanne.
Thank you. Bye.
You did good. Bye.